Welcome to Delivering Miracles, a podcast to teach women like you tips and strategies on how you can have a safer pregnancy so you can bring home a healthy baby. I'm your host and your high-risk pregnancy expert, Parijat Deshpande. I can't wait to chat with you. Trust. I want to talk to you today about trust. What does trust even mean? The definition in the Merriam-Webster dictionary is assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. We trust a lot of things in our life, right? We trust that the builders of our homes have built them so that the roof is not going to fall on us. We trust that the builders of our appliances have built them in a way so they're not going to spontaneously explode in our house, right? We trust that the clothes that we wear are made of material that's going to last. We trust that our cars are going to work when we turn them on every morning to go to work. We trust that. There's an inherent trust. And you see this trust most when you look at children. They're like little ducklings, right? They look at who's in charge and they trust. And something happens along the way as we get older, for better or for worse, right? There's pros and cons to this. As we get older, we start to think more critically about what we're putting our trust in. Sometimes that trust starts faltering with our parents first, or our siblings, or our friends, right? We have a situation where a friend tells our secret to somebody else, and our trust is betrayed. It's the first experience we have where we realize, oh, trust is not something that's a given. It's something that needs to be earned. It's something that needs to be built. It's something that needs to be massaged to maintain because it can be broken. But hopefully you've also had experiences where you've seen how trust can be rebuilt and healed. Now, what does this have anything to do with what we typically talk about? Well, when you're going through a medical crisis, like infertility, fertility treatment, high-risk pregnancy with complications, having a baby in the NICU, trust is everything. From putting trust in your doctor, the embryologists, the system, in being able to help you get pregnant, to putting trust in your doctor's hands to help you stay pregnant and keep your baby alive, to putting trust in the care of the neonatal team in the NICU to help your baby come home. And I bring this up because all along the way, through my journey of infertility, high-risk pregnancy, and having a baby in the NICU, there were many times where I put my whole trust in somebody or something, and there were times when I had no trust at all. The biggest example that I can give you is when my son was born. I had such a complicated pregnancy that I had gotten to know my OBGYN and my perinatologist very well. I had seen them so often because of all the complications that I had developed. I was seeing them at least once a week, if not twice a week, for months. And the same thing goes for my reproductive endocrinologist. I'd spent so many months with him trying to get pregnant, all the drama of my very first complication that involved seeing him in the middle of the night sometimes and having him drive 50 miles from home to meet me in the ER to do a procedure. All of that, you go through something together with a team and you inherently build trust in them. And then my son was born and all of a sudden that team was gone. I didn't see my OB. I didn't see my perinatologist. I didn't see my reproductive endocrinologist, of course. And all of a sudden, my heart that now lived outside of my body in the form of my son, who was born almost 16 weeks prematurely, his life hung in the hands of people I'd never even seen. I did not trust them. That trust had to be built. But at the same time, I didn't take them out of the NICU because I didn't trust them, right? I trusted the process. I trusted the medical system. I trusted the education and the training that they'd received. I didn't trust them as people. Not until I got to know them. Not until they knew what we had been through so they could meet us at this point in our journey. And why am I bringing this up? Because this trust is essential to not just helping you get through whatever it is that you're going through, whether it's trying to get pregnant again after a loss, or it's trying to get pregnant at all, or it's trying to figure out how to save your baby's life or how to save your life. That's important. But when you don't have that trust and you start making decisions and you start going through the process and you start agreeing to things, treatments, medications, protocols, and then they don't work, or they work in a way that you didn't expect, or they bring on new complications, or something doesn't go the way that you thought they would, without that trust, healing from this is extremely difficult. That's when you start to see the guilt stay with you. That's when you start to see all the what ifs, all the regret. What if I had done this? What if I just spoken up sooner? Why didn't I just say something? Why didn't I switch doctors? And that becomes prime breeding ground for postpartum complications, depression, anxiety, PTSD, low self-esteem, your inability to trust yourself then as a mother. When you're going through a really difficult thing like infertility, high-risk pregnancy, baby in the NICU, trust the right people and resources, because that is essential to help you get through the difficult time and also to help you heal after it's all over. There are 3 particular levels of stress that there have to be. I know you might be sitting there going, well, I trust my doctor. I trust my husband. I trust my wife. That's great. That's great. That's level 1. And there's 3 of them that we usually forget about. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. The first is the team and the people around you. You absolutely should trust your doctor. You absolutely should trust your doctor to have your best interest at heart, to listen to you when you have concerns, to calm your anxieties when you have worries, to answer your questions and have time for you. And if that's not happening, you need to find another doctor. There was a woman I worked with a little while back who told me that she trusted her doctor with her baby's life. And that's something I hear a lot from women who are pregnant, right? And I know I felt that way too. When you're pregnant, there's literally another life that you're putting in someone else's hands saying, please help me grow this baby and keep him or her safe. But when we started working together, I noticed that she spent a lot of time on Google asking Dr. Google the exact same questions she asked her OB. And when she couldn't find the answers, she would call her mom and ask her what she did. And then when she couldn't get the answer she wanted, she'd talk to her friends, or she'd go online and ask in random forums what they thought. And then when we started working together, then she would start asking me what I thought. And while it's great to get information from different people, everybody has a different perspective, right? Your doctor comes from a clinical perspective. Your mom comes from a much more personal perspective. She knows you. She knows how you think. She's likely to be able to give you advice from that perspective. Friends know you differently. All good things. But when I asked her about why are you doing this? What are you hoping to gain? She said, I just want more answers. Okay, totally reasonable. Everybody wants more answers. Why do you want more answers? Because I don't feel good about what's going on. Well, why don't you feel good? Because I don't understand. Well, didn't your doctor explain to you what's happening? Well, yeah, he did, but then he was out of the room in 5 minutes, and after I left, I had even more questions than I'd started with. So how come you don't ask your doctor these follow-up questions? I don't want to bother him. I don't want him to think I'm crazy. I don't want to have him think that I'm just really anxious. That right there is a lack of trust in your team, a lack of trust in your doctor. You're not trusting your doctor to be able to handle your emotions. If your doctor actually cannot handle your emotions, you need to leave immediately. But is that actually true, or are you thinking that they can't? Are you assuming that they can't? Right? Obviously, I said this to her much much more nicely than this. And we explored all of this very carefully, and she was very open to it, which I really appreciated because it got her to see that even though she was saying she trusted her doctor, she wasn't acting like it. That deep down, she actually didn't trust her doctor. And this isn't just for doctors. This is for everybody around you. Do you trust your partner to be able to take care of you? Do you trust your partner to be able to give you what you ask for? Your partner will not be able to read your mind. Okay, I know that's a huge frustration for a lot of women. A lot of my clients complain about this too. I wish my partner just knew what to do or what I needed. No, they're not going to know. They're not in your position. They don't know what you need. You have to ask. But when you do ask, do you trust them to be able to give you what you need and what you've asked for? Do you trust them to be there for you when you don't even know what you need and all you want is just somebody to sit there with you while you figure it out? Do you trust them? It's so important. We assume that we trust them because, well, it's my doctor. Well, it's my partner. Well, it's my mom. Well, it's my best friend. But you are in a situation that is very unique. A medical crisis is a time when relationships change. And it doesn't matter what the medical crisis is. It could be a cancer diagnosis. It could be emergent surgery for some reason. It could be a heart attack. It could be infertility, high-risk pregnancy, or baby in the NICU. It happens to everybody, every single person in this world. A medical crisis changes relationships. So now is the time to make sure that you really do trust the people around you. You've got to trust them. And if you don't, I'm going to share with you tips on how to build that trust again and what to do about it. But it has to start with being really honest with yourself. You can't fix something that you don't realize is broken. Do you trust your best friend to pick up the phone or to call you back when she's free when you reach out for help? Do you trust her? Do you trust your doctor to advise you in the best way possible? And really, it's not what you tell yourself that's the answer to that question. It's how you act. It's what you do. You might tell yourself, you might listening to this going, yeah, of course I trust my doctor. But then if you're spending all your time Googling, instead of asking them the questions, if you spend all your time looking for answers somewhere else, if you're like me and you have a moment where you think your doctor's hiding something from you, I totally had a moment like that. It was partway through the pregnancy. I think I developed I think it was 4 complications at that point. I'd probably been just diagnosed with my 4th complication. And I remember sitting on the sofa and I was Googling. I was really frantic and I was really focused, and I was giving off this energy of intensity and being upset. And I remember my husband asking well, what are you doing? And I was frantically Googling. I had all these windows open on my computer. And I said, I'm researching. And he's like, what do you do? Why? We just had a huge appointment. My doctors were so good about spending time with me. I never felt rushed at my appointments. It's we just spent all this time talking to your doctor about all these things and asking all these questions. What could you possibly want to know more of? And I told him, I think she's hiding something from me. I literally thought for a moment my doctor is hiding something from me. How can my pregnancy be falling apart so much and they have no idea what's happening or why or what to do about it? How can that be possible in the 2nd decade of the 21st century in the United States of America? How is that possible? I'd lost trust in her. Was it because of anything she did? No, I don't think so. I don't think it says anything about her. But I had to recognize that, because if I was going to put my life and my child's life in her hands, I could not continue a relationship where I didn't trust her. It won't work. The same way marriages don't work when you don't trust your partner, same thing. Doesn't work when you don't trust your medical team, when you don't trust your support system, when you don't trust your friends, your family, the people you need to rely on, the people who are going to hold that escape mat that you're going to fall out the window and land on, right? You've got to trust them. But that's only one level of trust, okay? That's the one that we think of the most often. But there's a second level of trust that is equally as important that we don't really think about, which is trusting the process. And this is where I lost trust in my doctor, is because I didn't trust the process, and therefore I didn't trust her, which is the process of uncertainty. If you are going through fertility treatment, you're going through a high-risk pregnancy, or you have a baby in the NICU, you know there is so much that the medical world does not know. We don't know why you keep miscarrying. We don't know why these chromosomally normal embryos don't implant. We don't know why you make all these eggs and we have no embryos at the end of it. We don't know why these medications aren't working for you. We don't know why you are contracting in the second trimester. We don't know why you're not responding to the blood pressure medications. We don't know why your baby came early. These are comments I am sure you are so familiar with. And the advice that follows is, we've got to wait and see. Let's wait and see. Never more have I heard that than in the NICU. I heard it a lot during my pregnancy. Let me tell you that I couldn't stand hearing it. But by the time I got to the NICU, it was like threefold how often I heard it. Because they wanted to take it slow. They don't want to just jump into interventions and medications. I mean, as a parent, you just want to do something, right? And you're like, okay, I don't care. Just give them the medication. But the team is recognizing the benefits and the downside of, whatever medications or treatments or whatever there is. And they're saying right now, let's just see if he really, really needs it. And it is freaking hard. It makes you feel completely helpless that you're just waiting and not knowing. And waiting and not knowing. But there's such an important piece here of being able to trust that uncertainty and that waiting is the right thing to do. That sometimes taking action and starting on a medication, doing a surgery, running a test is actually not as helpful as waiting and not knowing. I'm not saying it's easy. Oh my gosh, it is not easy. And it's maddening some days when you're just like, are you kidding me? There's nothing else we can do. And that doesn't mean you stop researching and getting information and educating yourself about your options. But there is something to be said about trusting the process, trusting that certain things have to be done in a certain order for them to be actually effective. Even if in our minds we think, let's throw everything at it at once and just see which one sticks. Sometimes that's not the right answer. And part of trusting the process is knowing that no matter how helpless you feel by waiting and not knowing, there are still things you can do to make a difference. Whether it's while you're going through fertility treatment, or while you have pregnancy complications, or while your baby's in the NICU. And these aren't things that are small, that are just meant to like pat you on the head, go here, there, just try this and that'll make you feel better. No, these are things that can actually make a dramatic impact on your health or your baby's health. Stress and anxiety management is across the board. It helps you get pregnant. It helps you manage your complications. It helps you pump enough milk for your baby that's in the NICU, if that's what you're doing. It helps you heal faster after delivery. All of these things are important. They're critical, right? You've got to trust that you can make a difference. I hear way too many times, way too much, and it breaks my heart. Women saying there's nothing I can do. I just have to wait and see when my baby comes. To an extent, that's true. There are things that are out of our control. The baby's going to come when the baby's ready to come, whether we want the baby to come then or not. I never wanted my baby to come at 24 weeks and 5 days. That was the right time. But if I hadn't taken a stand and started helping my body stay pregnant, my son would have come at 22 weeks and 5 days, and he never would have survived. So if you can get 2 more days in your pregnancy, if you can get 2 more weeks, 2 more months in your pregnancy, imagine what that could do for your baby's chance at survival afterwards. In the fertility world, this is proven even more strongly than in pregnancy, because there are countless research studies that show that when you are able to manage your stress and anxiety effectively, you actually ovulate more eggs during IVF. You have a higher success rate for IVF cycles. You are much more likely to get pregnant than if you don't manage it appropriately. And that's just stress and anxiety we're talking about. There are so many other things that you can do in terms of your health, what you eat, how well you sleep, what your relationships are like, and how much support you have during them, managing your mood and making sure that you are getting enough rest, you're releasing tension in your body, what you're putting into your body in terms of food and drink, staying hydrated. All of these things make a huge difference, and you've got to trust that. Without a belief in that, you end up feeling so helpless, so out of control, that you've given up all your power to somebody else whose only answer at that moment is, we've got to wait and see because we don't know. One of the biggest results that I get with my clients that they're constantly shocked about is how powerful they feel. When we go through and start making these lifestyle changes, when we start making these small incremental tweaks to their day-to-day life that have profoundly large impacts on their health. When they suddenly see the same medication they've been on for months suddenly working and perking up their ovaries. When they see and literally feel for themselves contractions stopping. The power that comes from that. It's a power from trust, from trusting that you can make a difference. There are no words to describe how that feels. And so that whenever they go on to deliver, they know they did everything they could to get to that moment. There is something extremely healing about that. Because especially if you go on to deliver preterm, there's going to be guilt. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be wondering. You're going to wonder what you did that you or what you could have done differently. But that's the one that goes away the fastest, because you can look back and think, hey, look at all the things that I did do to stay pregnant. Look at all the things I did to get to that point, no matter what that point is, whether that's 18 weeks or 28 weeks or 38 weeks. You did it. You've got to trust the process. So the first layer that we think of, we got to trust the team and the people around us, our friends, our family, our medical team, the nurses and doctors, any other additional support systems that you have. You've got to trust that they know they can help you. You have to trust that they can help you and that they are helping you. And if they aren't helping you, you've got to find somebody else. The second is you've got to trust the process, that waiting and not knowing is part of the package, and that's sometimes the right thing to do. And you've got to trust that you can make a difference on your journey to get the information, to do what you need to do, to make the decisions, to make the changes to help your health and help your baby. And the third one, which we always forget, all right, the second one we often forget, but the third one we always forget. Okay, I can't say always. That's a really extreme word, but we very, very often forget, even more so than the others, is you've got to trust yourself. And this is the one that I see that goes out the window the first when a woman gets pregnant, especially when she has complications. And there's no judgment when I say that. I did the same thing. Because when you have complications, and this happens even with fertility treatment too, when you see your body betraying you and you feel it, right? It doesn't respond to medications the way it's supposed to. You're not able to ovulate the way you're supposed to. You have pregnancy losses. You lose babies along the way. You develop complications along the way. When your body actually does something different than what you need it to do, it's very easy to lose that trust. So there's no judgment. I understand where that comes from, and I personally felt it. But what that does is it takes away your power. It takes away your power. It removes you from the driver's seat of your experience so that you hand off the power to somebody else to make decisions, to lead the way. And now that's not to say that sometimes in life in general, yeah, we need people to lead us sometimes. Like, we're not always going to know which way to go, and that's okay. But you've got to trust yourself that you know how to find the right support, that you will find it, that you'll keep searching until you find it, so that the right people can lead you with their expertise, right? You've got to trust yourself to make good decisions. Way too often I hear from couples who say, well, the doctor said I should take this medication, or the doctor said that I can walk around and that I should continue exercising. And when I ask them what feels right in your body, They very strongly say, oh, no, that doesn't feel right. I have contractions or I bleed more when I walk around. But they've handed the control over to the doctor that they're not listening to their bodies anymore because they don't trust themselves anymore because something's gone wrong, right? I'm not saying you override everything your doctor says. No, doctors have a lot of expertise and there are very good ones in the field who are advising you based on their expertise, their training, and their experience. But that doesn't mean you stop trusting yourself to understand your body, to make good decisions, to find the support and information necessary to help you get through this, to build your team that you are ultimately trusting, right? The women I hear from the most frequently are women who know that their anxiety is affecting their pregnancy. They can feel it. Every time they feel anxious, their blood pressure is up, their insulin readings are off, their contractions pick up. I mean, they know it. They can feel it. They know that that's happening. And many of them, I'll tell you, many of them are already seeing therapists. But these therapists are not experts in high-risk pregnancies. They don't trust the work that they're doing, even though they love their therapist. And they don't trust their therapist to understand what they're going through. I actually just got a call from a woman recently, not just a couple weeks ago, actually, who said this very same thing to me. That I am seeing a therapist, this is helping, but she doesn't get the high-risk pregnancy part of it. And I reached out to you because I knew you would, which is great, right? Because she's looking at trusting a new member of her team. She's trusting the process that she can find better supports to help her along the way. But my question always to her was, well, what do you think? What feels right to you? It doesn't matter what I've been through personally. It doesn't matter what my education is or what my formal training is. Just like it doesn't matter what anybody else's experience has been like that's on your team. You have to trust yourself first. That is the most important out of all three. This is the one that you need to do most. Because without it, you're going to regret decisions. You're going to doubt the choices you make. And that doubt and regret is going to turn into guilt later. And it really makes that postpartum experience so difficult. Even if that postpartum experience feels so far away, right? And I say postpartum, but it doesn't necessarily mean postpartum, right? It could even be going through infertility, trying all this fertility treatment, not getting pregnant, and then deciding to stop. My point is that whatever decisions you're making, they're hard decisions. And you've got to trust yourself to make the right ones. And we get so caught up in the how. Well, how do I make that choice? How do I know it's the right one? I am the queen of getting stuck in the how. And I'll say something that would have infuriated me had I heard it a while ago, so I recognize that this might annoy you too. The truth is, you're going to know when you know. It's just a matter of getting out of your own way to accept that that's the right answer. We like to get in our own way and talk ourselves out of something because we don't think we should do that, or we don't think it's right to do that, or we're worried about what other people say. It starts with you, a trust in yourself to make the right decisions, and then a trust in the process that making that decision is the right thing to do, and then a trust in the people around you to support you in that decision, whatever that decision might be. 3 layers of support, 3 layers of trust that have to be there in yourself, in the process, and in the team and people around you. I know it sounds a little fluffy, right? It might sound a little fuzzy and like, well, what? How do I do that? How do I do that? What do I do? But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm seeing this over and over and over in the clients that I'm working with and the women that I'm hearing about. And so much in just the conversations that I'm having with people. We let go of our control and then we project onto other people that trust and that expectation that they might not be able to fulfill because that trust has to start with you and it has to include the process and the people around you. You can't have trust in one of these areas or 2 of these areas and think it's enough. Because it's not. It's never going to be enough. Okay? When you trust in the right people and resources, and that includes trusting yourself, that is going to help you get through the difficult times that you're in right now. And it's going to help you heal after it's all over. So how do you do that? How do you build this trust, right? The first is to find the right person or resource to rely on and trust yourself that you're going to make the right call. Like I mentioned, I have women who end up leaving working with therapists because they realize that that's not the right choice for them and coming to work with me because they want to work with a specialist. I have women who do the same thing with their medical team, where they realize that the OB or the MFM that they're working with are not the right ones who are going to support their ultimate goals of a VBAC or wanting to deliver or wanting to try a home birth or try laboring at home before coming to the hospital, or who is or is going to support their, anti-epidural perspective, whatever that might be, right? They realize that those doctors are not the right ones. Same thing happens for personal relationships. They realize that there are certain friends who they've relied on up until this point, who are wonderful sources of support, who are no longer supportive in the way that they need. So you've got to find the right person or people or resource to rely on and trust yourself that you're going to make the right call. And the way to do that is to trust your gut. Trust is not a cognitive process. It is not something that comes from your head after making pro-con lists. Should I trust this person or not? Should I trust this doctor or not? Trust is purely emotional and intuitive. And I get that for those of you that are type A, that are like me, who like lists and who like proof, this is a really hard concept to get. But let me remind you, your body is always telling you what the right decision is. Anytime you get stuck in a point of confusion of, I don't know what to do, turn that language around to say, I do know what to do. Am I listening to my instincts? Because they are always telling you, always 100% of the time. It's just a matter of whether we listen to them or not. So trust your gut, your instinct, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. That is going to guide you to find the right person or resource that's going to help you. So how do you do that? The best way to start trusting yourself to find the right person, the best way to start tapping into your gut instinct and relying on that as a source of truth to find the right people to support you through this time, the best way to do that is to get in control by making your actions match your words. If you're complaining about your doctor not listening to you, tell your doctor that or find a new doctor. If you're talking about how confused you are, explain that to your medical team and help them give you the answers you're looking for. If you're telling your friend, my anxiety is completely out of control and I don't know what to do about it, find somebody who could help you. You see what I mean? Listen to what you're saying about your situation and then choose to take action in a way that matches your words. Because what that does is it shows you that there is a cause and effect situation happening here. When I feel confused, I ask questions and I will get answers back. And what does that do? That builds trust because now there's predictability in a situation that felt completely out of control. If you are telling yourself, every time I stand up, my belly feels tight, do something about it. Instead of getting caught up in your head, which is where I live most of my life, let me tell you, I get it. Do something about it. It is your choice to take action. And I know you can, and I know you will. Because you're listening to this podcast, you've been here for a while, you know that you can do this. So if you've been waiting for that permission, consider this it. This is your permission to really, really tap into that inside, that little voice that's telling you what to do and take action. When you take that action, you're going to start trusting your instincts more. And that trust in your instincts is going to tell you who's the right person or what's the right resource that's going to help you. I know you can do this. I really, really believe in you. Trusting in the right people and the right resources is essential to help you get through this difficult time, because that's how it's going to help you heal after it's all over. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I know this was a different type of episode. I'm so glad that you stuck it out with me to listen to this, and I can't wait to hear what action you're taking to build the 3 levels of trust in your life, because you deserve it and you need it. And I can't wait to hear how you do with it. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you can head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review so that Delivering Miracles continues to rank higher and higher, so more women who are struggling through infertility, a high-risk pregnancy, prematurity can tune in and receive inspiration and tips and motivation on how to get through all of this with their sanity intact and with less anxiety and way more confidence. Also, I would love to stay in touch, so follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Parijat Desh. That's PARIJATDESH. Come on over and say hello. I would love to hear from you. There's so much going on right now in your life. I get it. It feels overwhelming and confusing and out of control and frustrating and infuriating. There is a light at the end of this tunnel, and you will find it. I can't promise you what's there, but I know you will find it. And the way to that light is by trusting the right people, trusting the process, and trusting yourself. Take it one day, one step at a time. You can do this.